Hello and welcome to episode 75 of Thinking Outside the Pod.
75, geez.
75, middle of season 2, essentially.
Like 3/4 worth of episodes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, if 100 is the goal. Yeah.
Fine, Jimmy, we'll make this a little bit easier. It is one more than 74. We'll go with our trend of adding one to the previous episode.
There we go. Perfect. And if you are watching the video, we have a guest here. Patrick is celebrating his birthday weekend, whatnot. So we have...
I guess I don't know.
Whatever. We have Jason. So
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Boo on his birthday. Yeah.
Boo on his birthday.
How dare you? How dare you survive another year?
How dare you have a birthday?
Yeah,
we have stuff to do.
But yeah. So Jason is a longtime friend of mine since like high school.
You said
I don't know. You tell. Yeah, you
said it like a question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it's like
you tell me.
It's enemy, friend of me. I guess would be the correct term. He's the bane of my existence.
Arch rival.
Arch rival. There we go.
Arch rival.
I guess he's my friend.
But I wouldn't put him as equal as me. I'd put him way lower. Like.
So he's that type of friend.
Oh no!
Yeah, I keep you around so I can feel better about myf.
Exactly. That is exactly what you're here for, Jason.
And I also pay your bills, but
you do not pay my bills.
Wow.
Do not pay my bills at all. But yeah, episode 75. A lot of things happened, I guess, over the last week, and
I don't know. Did they? I
don't know. I guess. Well, technically, a lot of things happened. Maybe
Stuff
not
happened.
important things. I don't know about, but.
Okay.
We made a list, so we'll go ahead and start talking about them.
We're just gonna start announcing everything we're gonna do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
now
now
I'm going to breathe in. Now I'm gonna breathe out. Okay.
That's the entire podcast.
All right.
I forgot what I was supposed to do next.
I know. Yeah. Okay.
I'm turning blue. I'm turning.
close your eyes.
It's not on my rundown. I don't know what I'm doing. Guys, help me. Transition.
Imagine you're floating on an ocean.
Why am I here? I don't like this.
All right.
But
how did I get out here?
I guess the first thing, Space Jam 2.
Space Jam 2.
There has been a big surge in people talking about this because LeBron James is possibly going to be the star of it. Thoughts on that?
No, please don't.
That's a horse that needs to stay dead.
Yeah, because you're like the first one. Like I liked it as a kid, but I think that was probably because I was a kid.
Because you're a kid, exactly.
Didn't know better. Like if I watched it, you're like, I'll still get like maybe that little bit of nostalgia, but then I go, yeah, that's actually quite a bad movie.
Yeah, it's something I don't want to rewatch. It's one of those movies that
I want to keep my happy memories. I don't want it to be ruined by now my knowledge of more so of what makes a decent movie. Like I still don't know what the hell makes a decent movie, but at least it's I have a better understanding.
Which is to say, I mean, I bought it on Blu-ray. I own it, but
never watched it.
I'm not gonna watch it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's good to have. Like, I guess it's good to have, but yeah, it's like Rugrats. I don't want to go back and rewatch it because I had fond memories of it when I was a kid watching it. And I know if I look back now, I'll be like, why did I watch this? This is like badly animated and the storylines are ridiculous. And it's like something, you don't want to.
There's a few of those cartoons that you can watch. Like Ed, Edd n Eddy, I think I could watch that for all time. That was just
most definitely.
That was a great show. Some cartoons.
Yeah,
some of them.
I could see like the silly, irreverent stuff, but any like heartfelt things, I guess are different maybe. I would see like the silliness of Ed, Edd n Eddy be something I still like today.
Yeah, I mean, because it's one of those it's relatable because you look at it, it's just a normal like suburban culture and stuff like that. You've got like you're kind of your cool kid, you've got your nerd or whatever with like the braces.
You got the weird farm kid.
Yeah, you get the weird foreigner that doesn't understand normal cultural stuff or they have their own cultural norms that are weird and you're like I don't know what this is.
And the kid that talks to a piece of wood.
Yeah. Like all of our childhoods.
I remember.
I mean, there's at least somebody. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's also that like shows like that were kind of ahead of their time. Like that's what shows are today. They're just silly and like far-fetched anyway. So I think that kind of helps that show for sure. But yeah.
I mean, I might rewatch it just because I think there's a lot of jokes that were missed.
Yeah, probably.
Well, it's like the show
that were geared more towards the parents of those kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the greatest show that I can think of jokes that I missed as a kid, Animaniacs. Have you ever gone back and watched that?
Yeah, there's
so much historical references in those shows, like like Pinky and the Brain and all that stuff. You're like, as a kid, I'm like, it's a cute mouse, being an idiot and the smart one that's always, his plan's getting foiled. But then you look and you're like, they're friggin' like working with like Thomas Edison and stuff like that, and you're like, as a kid, I'm like, I don't know who the hell half these people are.
Yeah, I think I've seen some meme before that Prince was a guest on that show once.
Well, I don't know
maybe.
if Prince was a guest. They did a joke where they were.
Well, it looked like
they had Prince as like a cameo. I
Yeah.
don't think they actually had him voicing it because the joke was like, it's like they're checking like this crime scene or something like that, and they're like, did you finger Prince? And then one of them comes back and. Or did you?
He said, I think they just said fingerprint, like get finger, like
something like that, and then
some to the extent of fingerprints.
Some of them brought out Prince, and they're like, I don't think I want to do that. Like, like that's a completely adult joke in a children's show that went over every kid's head.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's like, oh my gosh, they said that.
I mean, it's like with Rocco's Modern Life that he was, he worked at a sex hotline.
Yeah,
like that sort of stuff.
What was that other?
Did he really? I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I probably missed that as a kid. Jeez.
If like you go back and watch some of go to some of his workspace stuff, like all of the signs like say like be sexy. And
he worked at like one of those. Yeah, that was like one of his jobs. Yeah, there's.
Ren and Stimpy may have been what you were thinking about.
Well, Ren and Stimpy definitely because that was an adult
like
cartoon.
Geared. That was geared for sure.
Yeah, that was more. They had adult-oriented episodes where that was kind of they had to edit it for. Why they put that on Nickelodeon is beyond me, but they did.
It didn't. Was it always on Nickelodeon?
They released some extra stuff that I don't think was on Nickelodeon, like some more adult-oriented stuff. But I think. For what I remember, it was on Nickelodeon, and then I'm not sure if it started on Nickelodeon and then they did the adult stuff, or they just edited it for Nickelodeon. I'm not sure.
Because I thought it ran on Spike for some time.
It did for a little bit too. Like I said, I think they did like the more of the unedited stuff on Spike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think it ran on Nickelodeon first, though.
Yeah, I think it was always geared as like a adult themed thing, and then just Nickelodeon picked it up because it was a cartoon, I guess.
I guess, yeah. They're like, hey, let's put Family Guy on.
Like a weird dog and another dog. They're both dogs, right?
Or is it Cat Dog?
Cat Dog was, that was another show. And they had some weird things like, how do you go to the bathroom? And like, you don't want to know. Like, so there's things like that, like gross humor. But yeah, like some of those shows I'm okay, I guess, to rewatch, even though I don't. I guess it would be okay. It wouldn't be like childhood shattering. If I went back and watched it, which I think like it would ruin the appeal that like Space Jam had if they put LeBron James in it, because he's not as, I guess.
It's like I wouldn't envision LeBron James as being like a charismatic person, like Michael Jordan.
I would assume he'd be more cocky and like.
He doesn't have
arrogant.
The same appeal as what Michael Jordan had back in the 90s.
I think Michael Jordan was a way bigger star and had the talent to back it up. Like he won like the most.
Or was more of a lovable personality because like LeBron James, I don't envision him as being necessarily not as friendly of a guy as like I would envision Michael Jordan being.
No, I mean with his statement saying like I'm the best basketball player in the world.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't seem like a very likable guy at all.
Yeah. And I think his appeal is divided. Like a lot of people, a lot of people hate him, like don't like him, especially like here in San Antonio. He's always been like the person that we don't like because he's always on the other team that's going against our team.
Well, of course. I mean.
So yeah, I think that's, and like everyone likes Michael. Like even if like you weren't, like you liked a different team, he was just so good that you were just like, oh gosh, he's Michael Jordan, like just, or is that just me? I don't know.
Just get starry-eyed for Michael Jordan.
You're fantasizing a little bit too much, but no, I understand the sentiment. Yeah, like everybody knew, everybody respected Michael Jordan for his talents and stuff like that.
Despite his stint in baseball.
Yeah, which he kind of like played off in Space Jam. Like there was at least enough of a plot, I guess, in Space Jam 2 or Space Jam that made it kind of okay. Like there they made it like in real life. Like it's like what happened in between the time where he stopped doing baseball and restarted his basketball career. Oh, he got sucked into a golf course and played basketball with the Looney Tunes and Bill Murray, obviously.
Yeah.
And then
that sounds like that's a normal.
Like, what have you been living under a rock?
Yeah, that's
this is a true story. This is
all over the news.
What was different about your last Tuesday? That was what happened to me. But yeah, Please don't. I don't want it to happen.
It's gonna happen.
My question is why? Do we really need to reboot it? Does anybody really want it? Is my question.
It doesn't matter if anyone wants
Well,
it.
I guess. I mean, yeah. I guess if it makes some money, they'll put it out.
Makes some money and.
But my question is who would it be for, really? You know, because it's like little kids are gonna, I guess the little kids because they'll be like, ooh, Looney Tunes, and all the adults would be like, why?
But even that,
yeah.
Kids. I mean, kids these days. I mean, I don't know if Looney Tunes has the appeal that it did like when we were younger. I think. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
there hasn't been anything new with them.
Well, they had I think a couple of years ago. I mean, they had a more recent Looney Tunes cartoons. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like, yeah. I mean, it was weird because it was more like a sitcom almost. Like it was entertaining, but I was just like, this is weird, because it wasn't just like the random short segments that it was. It was actually like Bugs Bunny like had a house, and like Daffy Duck was kind of like a like I guess more of like a squatter, just kind of living in his house. He's just kind of like his bum roommate. Like this is
maybe that's
weird.
Part of the hook is that they're trying to bring Looney Tunes back, trying to make it more relevant.
Yeah,
it could be. I assume that's what they'd want to do anyway. But
it's past its golden age, I think. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not as relevant as it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I say no. No one's gonna listen to us at all. But
I mean, yeah, if they want to put the money into it, they're gonna do it.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So
I'd prefer it to not come out, but it's like, if it comes out, fine. I mean, I'm not gonna go watch it.
Speaking of going to watch things,
transitions,
segue, amazing segue skills that I have, especially when I call them out. Movies in the theater versus movies at home.
Oh,
geez, there's been a big debate. A lot of studios are opting to release video on demand instead of in theaters these days, just because of how popular streaming is.
I think that's going to be a bit of a hard sell because there is, I don't know, it depends. If they want to make that work properly, they're going to have to make the on-demand service cheaper than going to a movie theater, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't it? I mean, if they release it on Netflix, isn't that cheaper than?
Well, but they have to make it. With Netflix, it's not necessarily a brand new release. Are they talking like instead of releasing it in a theater, they're going to release it on a streaming service?
Yeah.
If they do that,
that's what. Yeah, that's.
Then I think to really, if they want to, it depends on which they want to do. If they, if they wanted to, work with movie theaters, they're gonna have to make it probably about the same price. But I think if they want to get people to really buy into it, they'd make it cheaper.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those. Now you're not paying, for a theater. You're not paying for the big seats or whatever. Blah blah blah. All that junk.
Yeah.
And but I don't know. I think a brand new movie. I think that'd be kind of weird to watch it. Like I watch most movies at home anyway, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd really want to watch a brand new movie in my house.
I think it depends on what movie it is. Mm-hmm. I mean,
like the huge spectacle movies.
I mean, if like the new Hunger Games, I could care less if that comes into my Netflix streaming service. I don't care. I'm not going to watch it either way. But if something were like Interstellar were to come out in theaters and also be simultaneously streamed, that's something I would go see in theaters as opposed to sitting on my couch.
Yeah,
it's all. I think a lot of it has to do with your experience of being in a theater, and I mean, even now, a lot of theaters are starting to do like 4D stuff where your seats move and a bunch of other interactable things happen while you're watching. It's still a gimmick, but that's part of watching a movie now.
Yeah. I don't want to get wet while I'm watching a movie.
Whoa,
if it's scary.
But yeah, I understand that, but at the same time, I really like watching movies at home. I don't always like going to the hassle, especially like a brand new movie. Like I don't want to go to a crowded theater. It's annoying to me. I also don't like people, but
that's why you go at like 11 in the morning on a Tuesday, where there's like nobody.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah,
well, I guess like with
not during the summer though.
Yeah, that's. But so like if like what was the last movie I went to the theaters? I saw
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. I saw Ant-Man, and the theater wasn't that bad for Ant-Man, but because I went like on a during the day, like I went like early, so it wasn't that bad. But a lot of those like midnight releases are packed and stuff like that, and I hate that. I hate being like next to people I don't know.
What's a midnight release? I mean, what do you expect? I mean,
well, I don't know. I saw the Tusk midnight release, and there was no one in the theater.
Oh, really?
I mean, that's how I felt when I saw the Dragon Ball released at midnight.
Oh no!
Oh god!
So you were the one.
Oh.
Hey, I was with a group of people, so
So you were.
It took me a long time to watch that movie.
I still haven't. No.
Don't waste your time.
this movie was only 90 minutes, and it took me 3 days.
That's the other thing. Watching, there's so much distractions at home. That's one thing I don't like. But I do like not having to go somewhere and watching something new. That's my big thing. But I do like the movie experience, like as long as it's a good experience, like the theater experience.
Well, because for me, it's one of those, like you said, if I'm at home, for me, it's like, I have a hard time sitting and watching TV, not necessarily because the stuff on TV is, good or bad. It's just I have a computer with lots of video games and YouTube stuff to watch. I'm like, my tastes have become more onto those.
Yeah.
Or if I stream stuff, I just use my PlayStation 4. It's like I don't watch a lot of movies or TV shows anymore because it's like, I've got my anime and stuff on there. I can get, movies on occasion. Just, I don't need, I don't watch a lot of movies anymore. So for me, it's like, great. I mean, it would be interesting, but I don't know if I would really want to use it too much.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel too, if you're watching a movie or a TV show in the house, like there's more distractions. Like say you like knock on a door, or you want to cook something while you want to do something else while you're watching. You could just miss important things.
Yeah.
As opposed, if you're in a theater, it's like, well, you're kind of stuck here.
And plus, you paid a lot of money to watch it, so
you
you're like,
paid
I'm going to watch
$13.50.
this thing. Yeah.
I paid $13.50 for this matinee. I'm not getting up to go take a pee or nothing.
Yeah, I think it's the way the future is going to be though. I don't see theaters like maybe some like art house theaters or something like that, or maybe like one theater a city maybe. But I see like streaming being like the bigger thing for movies. Like you're going to see a lot of newer movies, like they did with The Interview, but there was circumstances around that. But
what I think is going to happen is I don't know. I think there will always be theaters for a while. I think it's going to take a lot longer than you think to get rid of those.
Probably.
But what I think is going to get replaced is the direct-to-DVD. I think that will become
streaming.
streaming.
Oh, yeah. No,
it makes sense because then you don't have to pay for the
don't
physical media. You don't have to pay for all that stuff, and then you can do it for cheaper, because that, we'll see what happens. So, I mean,
you see a lot of, like on Netflix, see a lot of B movies that you never would have heard of otherwise.
Yeah, and that's
just it's like, oh, this is here. It's like I've never watched this, probably never will watch it.
Yeah, well, the streaming. The streaming thing is like a godsend for like independent movie like people. It's because it's a lot cheaper. I assume it's a lot cheaper or a lot easier to get your stuff on streaming. Well,
yes.
Definitely. Now that I think about it, it's way easier to get your stuff on streaming services than it is to get it onto in a movie theater for like commercial release. You have to deal with like.
So all you need is the file, and then you just kind of you either strike a deal with whatever streaming service you're doing, or you just bite the bullet and just say, all right, well, it's free, and unfortunately they're probably going to make money off of my project, but at least it gets me exposure.
Yeah, exposure. You get on Netflix, and that's.
Yes, I mean you look at like YouTube and stuff like that, or like I guess like just broadcasting in general. I mean, like you look at like esports, like that's another topic we have on here. Segue, I guess, but like
future segue.
Kinda, yeah. This is we may bring this up a little bit later.
We'll get there eventually.
But like you look at like esports and stuff like that, and you look at, and they don't have, they're not doing like broadcast television like your normal sports and stuff like that, but they're still getting more viewers, and it's because they're not limited by like TV and stuff like that. You could watch it on every friggin' device you want, and that's like you look at sports and they're trying to catch up, but it's they've got the internet culture that's already on their computer all the time. So you're like, oh, hey, I can just open a window, watch that, and then I can
be doing
other stuff,
And I mean, one of the concerns I would have is different sort of cable providers with VOD services are going to be withholding certain like movies if they're not offered through like Hulu or Netflix.
Yeah, I mean there'll be the distribution rights and all that stuff. So I mean you got to fight with that.
And that's the problem I could foresee is it's like, oh well, we exclusively have this actor's movie on this service,
and so if
you have this service, you can't get this. It'd be like.
And that's what'll happen is you'll start saying kind of like you're like with Steam and Origin and stuff like that. Where EA, they're like, oh hey, we're gonna make our own distribution service just so Steam can't have them. It's like there's no reason for Origin to exist other than really that. But I mean, it's just you'll start seeing that where it's like, oh, you have to get movies to go in order to get all the Time Warner movies or whatever and so and so, and it's going to be
that's true.
So you're gonna
AT&T Dish has these movies.
Yeah,
and
it's just gonna be.
It's gonna be a mess.
Once like one company buys everything, and it's just like one company in the entire world, that won't be a problem though.
Let's have a super monopoly.
Like the Pixar thing, like it's all B&L. Like the by and large is like the Pixar huge conglomerate that's like in Wall-E. It's all going towards a Wall-E future anyway. So, but like B&L is like they started off like in Toy Story, and they were just like a quick stop gas station, and then like in Pixar they're the ones that own like the huge spaceship. So that's more commentary for Pixar, but yeah. So,
Is this really? I have to take a look at this.
Like you've heard of like the Pixar theory, where all the Pixar movies are connected. Like it's.
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely references to other movies in each one if you look hard enough. Yeah. I mean that's a normal thing for studios to do.
But yeah, but once like say like Time Warner buys everything, then that won't matter.
Well, for
the
us,
distribution.
I mean,
bad customer service all around.
Oh no.
AT&T is going to be the one to own everybody because they bought Dish Network.
Yeah, someone just bought Dish
AT&T
Network.
bought Dish Network.
Yeah, I was like, oh. Geez.
Well, because I mean, luckily they got blocked from buying Comcast a year ago or something like that. Yeah, because it's like I'm surprised they let them buy Dish Network.
Yeah,
like, hold on,
that's a big.
You're like Comcast is not okay, but Dish Network's okay. I'm like wait, hold on, that's one of their direct competitors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's going to happen anyway. So there'll be one service anyway.
So we're not going to be, it's USA is not going to be United States of America. It's going to be United States of AT&T.
Oh no, probably USATT. But speaking of esports,
okay, there we go. Hey, there's that segue I predicted earlier.
AT&T presents esports.
Exactly. They just announced that esports are going to be drug testing.
Yeah, I saw a couple headlines in this. I didn't really delve too much into it, which I think I think it's weird because it's like it's video games, but I guess it's that constant thing of they're trying to legitimize.
Yeah. They're taking cues. They're taking cues from the major sports like the baseball and the football, and they do that. So they're like, oh, we feel the need that we need to do that.
Because my question is really, like I understand that they want to legitimize it and make it like an official sport and stuff like that, but why? Mm-hmm. Why does it need to be an official sport like football and that kind of stuff? What's wrong with what it is now? I think it's fine just now. I mean, it's good enough now. I think I'm surprised how far it's gotten along so far.
Yeah. I mean, you were saying it's like the big tournaments and stuff.
Yeah.
They get huge numbers. They get like sport like football, huge football game type numbers.
Well, because like one thing I saw was they were saying like the LCS World Championship for League of Legends had more viewers than like some of the finals games between like last year with like the Spurs and stuff like that. They're like more people watching a video game. 10 people play a video game than professional sports championship.
And it's like they're trying to legitimize it, but also at the same time, big people like ESPN say, no, it's not real, but we're going to hold them to the same standards.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those of, what's kind of weird with the whole ESPN thing is, there was a backlash from them playing, because ESPN2 they played some sort of tournament, this was like a couple of months ago, and there's a huge backlash saying, why are we putting video games on ESPN2, that kind of stuff, which, who cares? There's friggin' poker. It's like why is that more of a sport than video games?
Do they drug test in poker, do you think?
Probably not.
I don't know.
I don't know. I would assume it's kind of surprising that they didn't. Because, I mean, there's a lot of money going into those things and sponsors and stuff. I'd assume
but what are you
there should be.
I don't. But what type of performance enhancing drug? Are you gonna take for poker?
Well, I mean, it's like the prescription stuff. It's like the Adderall
I guess you
and
stick
like
it in your eye so your eyes don't move at all. I mean, what are you gonna do?
It's. I think like in the article I read for the esports one, I think like Adderall, like a lot of the prescription drugs and stuff like that like keep your energy up and your focus up or stuff like that.
Yeah, but still, like you're saying poker though. What drug are you gonna take for poker?
I mean, same thing. Like to make sure you have energy throughout the whole thing. I mean, it's all just it's a mental sport. So I mean, you wouldn't be taking steroids or anything ridiculous like that. But
I mean, you wouldn't be taking any downers or anything with it either. But
so like things like that. But those are prescription things, I guess. If the person can get a prescription anywhere, so it's like wouldn't be illegal. Yeah. But it's kind of weird. But I would assume it kind of surprised me when I heard that they didn't, just because it's such. Well, I mean, because I thought it was. I mean, it's so big anyway, so I assume there would be some standards.
Well, you still gotta think of it.
Some standards.
It's still something that it's a slowly evolving thing. Because it's something that I don't think when they started it. I mean, they wanted this to get this big, but I don't think anybody had any idea really where it's going. Because it's like, think of it. 2-3 years ago, who would have envisioned this? Nobody would have sat there and said, oh, hey, friggin' video game tournaments streamed on Twitch are going to be getting more views than professional sports. Nobody, I never thought it would happen.
It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. I mean, as it gets bigger, more regulations are going to come into play, and there are going to be more restrictions. And
I mean, it's going to slowly more and more, and then at some point, finally, ESPN's going to go, okay, this is actually, I don't know at what point, I'm surprised they haven't already just caved in and just say this is actually a legitimate thing at this point.
Yeah, there'll probably be like a ESPN 5 or something that's like esports.
Well, because the thing is what's pretty cool is like these esports, they're actually starting, like companies are actually starting to take notice of it. I mean, they're finally going, hey, this is actually a legitimate money thing, and they're starting to invest money into it. Because I think like Coke had like some sort of sponsorship. Like you're starting to notice a lot more sponsors and stuff. I mean, you always had like more of your nerd companies and stuff like that, but I think pretty soon we're going to start seeing Coca-Cola, I don't know, the Bears or something like that.
It's a huge opportunity that they're missing. I mean, all companies want is reach. And you look at the numbers of like an esports thing, millions upon millions or hundreds of thousands of people watching. That's 100,000 people that could be seeing your Coke ad. It's just money. It's money well spent for sure. Because I mean,
Mountain Dew and Doritos are already doing a pretty good job of reaching out to those fans.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's their main target audience is nerds and stuff. I guess Mountain Dew is the traditional gamer stuff.
If they're not,
I hate Mountain Dew. I hate Mountain Dew.
I don't mind it.
Well, it's like they come out with this whole gamer fuel stuff that they put directly on their bottles. Like, who do you think they're really trying to market to here?
Well, that's more of like I envision like the frat boys who play, get hardcore into like
Mad
War
Cod
kind of stuff. Yeah, that's who I envision the gamer fuels for. But
I mean, pause the game. Need to get my gamer fuel.
I go lift some weights.
I'm running low on fuel. I need to.
Get my Mountain Dew, get my dumbbell in one arm, and I got my controller in my third arm.
Oh no! Please sanitize that when you're done.
It's like, oh geez, hey, you made that.
I didn't know. What? I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, so I don't know. You're right. I guess it's more of a like just making it more legitimate, like making it more like football and stuff. But yeah, you're right. I don't. Yeah.
Well, my thing is, it's kind of like with whole video games. I wonder when we're finally going to get out of the point to where it's like video games not a niche thing anymore. Mm-hmm. It is not a niche thing anymore, and it's something
is it still a niche thing?
I think in a lot of minds.
I think in a lot of because like you look at like like broadcasts and stuff like that, and always like whenever they do any sort of video game coverage, it's always something like real small, and it's like never really like it's always.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Just like it's always still like with news and stuff like that. Like like we had the president of Nintendo died a couple weeks ago, and I saw like not a single mention of it, and you're like, that's quite a big deal. A lot of people.
Well, since G4 TV's gone now.
Yeah, I mean
that was the only like source of gaming news and anything.
Yeah, I mean,
on TV
died.
And you just look at it, and there's like these massive conventions and stuff like that. I mean, like only Comic-Con gets any real footage and stuff like that. Like why doesn't like PAX? Why doesn't like E3? Occasionally E3 will get something, but it's one of those of at what point how big does this have to get
before
finally everybody's like, this is actually no longer it's not a nerd thing anymore. This is like everybody's playing video games.
Yeah, it's mainstream, but the mainstream media doesn't like they're not realizing it. Yeah, they don't know.
Like with ESPN too, like all that kind of issue. It's like why are we still considering? It's like, why is this a secondary sport and stuff like that? What it's just, it's weird. I'm kind of curious at what point.
Like they're waiting for their older audiences to die out, and then when the younger generation comes up, there's more or less grown up playing video games, and they'll say, okay, now we can start reporting on all these different conventions and new games and things like that.
Well, because I mean, when you look at like South Korea, like their national sport pretty much is StarCraft. So I mean, you look at, I mean, you think I'm joking? It is absolutely monstrous over there. Like
They're
still,
insane.
StarCraft 2 is it is nuts. Like you look at our stuff and you're like,
nowhere
yeah,
near.
freaking Twitch. You know, they're like you look at it and it's like they're nuts over there.
Well, there's stories of people like dying in like their internet cafes of like just playing StarCraft so long, like they actually get like a embolism in their leg and it like kills them.
It's like I'm not gonna leave.
Like they're I mean, it's that big of a thing. It's ridiculous.
Well, I remember like kind of like the joke with like when StarCraft 2 is getting pushed back. They're like, when it got announced, you can just hear like all of South Korea just like moaning all at once.
That kind of reminds me of when World of Warcraft first came big. A lot of people like lost their jobs and dropped out of college.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, just ruined their lives playing this game. It's just like, you know, there's a point where it's a hobby and then it becomes an obsession.
Yeah.
But now you can get paid for it.
Yeah. There's like farming.
So it's
and
like,
all
hey, now it's your job. You know, it's like,
yeah.
And it's interesting. It's interesting that how we got there. I mean, and that's because of the internet, really. Because I mean, now you can broadcast. You don't need $1 million worth of equipment to get out to people anymore. You just need a
phone,
$10 webcam or a phone. I mean, now your phones. I mean,
I mean, I don't know if there's the Twitch app yet, but I'm sure
there is
that you can stream.
Whether or not you can stream through it, I don't know. But yeah, you can at least access other people's streams. I don't know if you can stream through it. I would assume so. But
now I kind of wonder what's going to come along eventually in the next 50 or 60 years. It's going to knock gaming off its pedestal. Well, it's going to be the new thing.
Virtual, I think with like Oculus Rift, I think that's going to start slowly. You know, you're going to start getting into more of the like the holodecks, like in Star Trek. I think that might be kind of the next thing where it's like, okay, now we don't need a console anymore. We can just like turn our room into this weird, you know, like it's going to be a mixture of like Oculus Rift and like Microsoft's whatever their new HoloLens or whatever. It's going to be a mixture of that, and then you just have like a room designated.
Well,
to it.
like we just watched Gamer. Did you ever see Gamer with
Gerard Butler? And
is that the one where like it's like a prison?
Yeah, like
sort of.
Like you can control like there's a couple of, like you can control a prisoner, and it's like a Call of Duty type thing. Like you're in an environment, and like you have different goals or whatnot to get to the save point, and you can actually kill actual prisoners.
I never saw it, but I know which one you're talking about though.
Yeah, and it's kind of like
they
that.
Basically,
the guy
use
has
like nanobytes to control another person's movement.
They have voodoo science. You control a person. You're in a room that's like 360, kind of like the holodeck type thing. Yeah. And you're controlling a person, and you're actually killing actual people, but they're death row inmates or whatnot.
So that makes it okay.
It's okay.
That makes it okay.
That makes it okay.
It's totally not murder anymore.
They were gonna die anyway.
They volunteered, like because if you win 30 matches, you get you're free. Yeah. So there's that. It's a pretty interesting movie. I mean, at least it shows like, I guess what it could happen, but I don't think it's gonna. I don't. No, me.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't. I would hate society so much if that like actually became a thing, which I don't think it ever will. But it's like that kind of thing.
You never know, man. You never know.
Please, society, don't do that.
See, it's one of those.
There's one thing we ask.
If society's going to go anywhere, I think WALL-E is the most accurate depiction of what's going to happen to us. I mean, it's like look, it's like sorry, look at our country already. It's like we're already going that way. We're letting computers do everything as it is.
Yeah, and
people are losing. We're sitting there. Some people are complaining like illegal immigrants are stealing jobs. Like no, robots are stealing our jobs. Are you? It's the robots. Are we going to start? It's like let's. Let's export robots and stuff. Let's get rid of them. Let's get them out of our country.
Hopefully there won't be a robot podcast out there. It'll be dead. Like they
damn robot immigrants. Yeah, we were made here.
Like, no, you're not American. You're made from Chinese parts.
Some of your parts are from China.
You're made in China. You're not made here. What are you talking about?
Mr. Roboto, you're adopted.
I mean, it's just one of. I mean, you look at that, and it's just like, I totally, when I saw WALL-E, I'm like, now, like I was a little bit younger. Now that I've looked at, how, now I'm in a technological business, I'm like, yes, that's totally gonna happen.
Yeah, if humans could be able to not do anything and still
live, I guess, if you want to call it living.
Then we'll do it. I mean, that's like you always hear stories like like self-driving cars. That's just like step one into like the WALL-E universe, and then we'll have just hover chairs, and we just sit in that and just
hoverboards.
Yeah,
finally.
That other Lexus I think just released, or I don't know if they're about to release a video about it. But yeah, things like that. That's scary.
I don't necessarily think scary,
yeah,
but
I mean,
I'd
be out of
sad thing.
I'd be out of a job.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Everybody
would be out of a job.
Yeah, we would just not have jobs. We would just it would be like the government just pays for everything.
Yeah,
it would
at that point, it's like how
there wouldn't be in need for jobs.
Yeah, because our culture would be so much different. Because it's like, well, I mean, we can't produce anything. So how does anybody actually, I guess if robots are doing it all, I guess then you don't have to worry about the cost of creating stuff. I mean, you have resource limit. But
that's exactly what they want, though. The robots. They want us to not worry.
Oh no, robots, you jerks!
And they'll kill us all. And be like, "Ah, we took over planet Earth."
It wasn't a WALL-E future. It was a Terminator future.
No.
Dang it!
You're like, "Oh, you're not a nice robot."
Where's WALL-E? We killed WALL-E.
Like a little Roomba.
WALL-E's dead.
Yeah. I just look at your Roomba. Just all some like little red eyes appear on top, and then like a hand with like a knife comes out. You're like, "Oh shit!"
Oh no.
You're like, "Oh no, it's chasing me at 2 miles an hour. It's going so slow."
That's one bad Roomba.
And you're like, "Oh no, it's just slowly coming towards you." You're like,
good.
"Oh no."
It hit the cord. We have some time.
It just falls downstairs or something like that. You're like, "Good, all right." Luckily, it can't flip itself back over.
Like a turtle just landing there.
It's just his wheels just keep rolling. You're like, "Oh, I feel bad for it."
Like,
you flip it back over, and it kind of starts chasing you
like
again.
that's the like we make a horror movie about killer Roombas.
Yeah, it's a Roomba with like a knife,
and it's just like people scrawled in blood on the wall. It's like flip them over. That's like their main weakness. Find a way to flip them.
So you imagine you just like walking through your house and you just see it just kind of it goes forward and it's like slowly turns after you.
Just imagine if
you just walk back, it keeps turning.
Just imagine if that happened and the BattleBots got out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Man, that'd be rough.
I watched an old BattleBots thing and like the first season of it. Like it's all on YouTube, and there's they did their matches, and then at the end they just put all the robots in it. Like all the robots in the arena, and just had them go at each other. I was like, it was like ridiculous carnage and like metal flying, and like not safe. I guess they didn't care about safety back then, but it was just like and like ridiculous amount of like robots out there. But like the more recent BattleBot stuff, it's just 1-on-1. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, definitely the carnage.
Too expensive to do, I imagine.
So when you get
cheaper.
That's when you get the one guy who's like, "I'm gonna stick a bomb in my robot."
Just not tell anybody about it.
Like, oh shit!
Just a kamikaze bomb.
Yeah, just disguise it as a battery. It's like, what's that? It's like, what's that? It's like, oh, that's a battery. Don't worry about it. Okay, all right, go ahead.
So it's a little robot with a smiley face on it. You're like, how's this thing gonna win? You're like, trust me, you'll see.
Don't you think it's a bit reckless to have your power source on the outside of your robot? It's like, shut up.
No.
You play BattleBots your way. I'll play it my way. It's like, what's your weapon system? I don't need a weapon system. I mean, my skill in driving is my weapon system.
That's how I always felt about the BattleBots that have the ramps on them. And I was like, man, like that's so lame. But then they actually win most of the matches.
It's
simple.
It's simple, and all you now you don't have to expend your weight on a weapon system. You can expend it on armor or
you just run at them.
And you know what they did? They just flipped him over.
Yeah. No. You're like, see the secret defense of robots. The robot army just flip him over.
Yeah, they don't need to go back in time to kill Skynet. They just need to flip the Terminator.
Yeah,
over.
Like Terminator. Instead of cow tipping, it's Terminator.
Just knock him over. Like, dang it.
Was it like Bender? He can't get up if he falls on his back.
Yeah.
Oh,
we got another one down. Go flip him.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the alien invasion things. It's like the Signs universe. It's like just get them wet. Like that's their weakness. They always, any invasion movie, it's always just some stupid, silly weakness.
You're like, their weakness is daisies. You're like, get the daisies. Like, daisies? You're like, what? Like, all right.
Speaking of invasions, Pixels came out. This wasn't we didn't think about that. It's been like critically panned. Like,
yeah, I saw a couple of very bad reviews on it. I mean, it's one of those of when I first was hearing about it, I'm like, ooh, this looks cool, and then you see Adam Sandler, like, oh, not anymore.
Can you say I'm not surprised?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've talked about this before. We've talked about like when this was like a trailer was released for this on the podcast, but it's I don't understand why Adam Sandler doesn't. How come he doesn't understand why his movies aren't doing well?
Can't he just go away? Please.
I want a Adam Sandler resurgence. I wouldn't. I liked him as an actor back then.
His dramatic roles are just leaps and bounds better than his comedic ones.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind him trying to rebrand himself more serious. I mean, throw comedy in there. Of course, all serious movies need to have comic relief.
A little bit, yeah.
But like Punch Drunk Love and what's it?
He was that one 9/11 movie. I can't remember.
9/11 Survivor. It was based on a Who song. I can't think of the Rain Over Me.
Yeah, Don Cheadle was in that too, I think.
Yeah, Don Cheadle was the friend. It was Rain Over Me. It was really good. He played like a 9/11 survivor with like PTSD and like kind of his world shattered because he lost his family on the plane or whatnot. And it was really good. Like, and he played it really well. And there's no reason why. I mean, he's an older actor now. Why are you still doing dumb movies?
Why are you trying to still be Billy Madison, essentially?
Yeah,
which was a good movie for its time.
All those movies are funny to even now if you rewatch Happy Gilmore.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's a dumb movie of like, hockey player, now he's playing golf, whatever. But it's still fun to watch. Like you can just rewatch that movie all the time. Waterboy, even though that was great.
Yeah,
they're fine movies. Even like Little Nicky, I used to watch that movie all the time.
Yeah. Little Nicky, I think is okay.
It's getting that's getting to the point where he's not
starting to get in the current we don't like him anymore.
Yeah, but I used to watch that all the time. I had it on VHS and watched it like whenever I went to sleep. I don't know what that says about me.
I mean, even the first Grown Ups movie was actually not bad, and then he just had to ruin it.
Yeah, the Grown Ups I think is like right at that turning point, like because Grown Ups all it was just making fun of his friend, like making fun of his friends, and I think that's where like all his movies are just getting where it's all just making fun of the other person,
him and Kevin James just going at it for a couple hours.
Yeah, and Kevin James is in Pixels as well. He's the president.
Yeah.
What?
I think so. I think he's the president.
That's what I read. Yeah, he was the president.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, and I saw the short. They had they put out the short that Pixels was based on, or at least they took. The
inspiration for the movie came from.
Yeah, like the concept of aliens invading as. Like
80s,
Galaga,
80s arcade characters,
and it was fine, and
that looked really cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting setup
because it was short, it was sweet. there wasn't humans.
It was animated well.
Yeah.
Like it actually looked really good, and the movie looks the Pixels the Adam Sandler movie looks good. As far as visually, like it's cool looking, like a huge Donkey Kong throwing stuff, or like the Eiffel Tower getting pixelated and falling apart. That stuff's cool. I just wish that they did something better with the story.
I just wish he wasn't a part of it.
Yeah, like if they went a different route. I don't know. It's tough because it looks to me like a cash grab. They're just trying to bank on nostalgia.
Yeah,
and then bank on whatever semblance of what Adam Sandler can still get. I don't know, not much.
No, and back to Space Jam 2.
Yeah, it's just it's those obvious cash grabs are annoying to me. I wish they did more heartfelt stuff. I don't know. It's a tough movie to make.
Well, here I guess. All right, so
Adam Sandler's not the answer.
I guess segue to a slightly different movie. You talk about heartfelt stuff. Like me and my dad, we went and watched Inside Out.
Yeah.
A couple of days ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised. I was really blown away by the movie. I am shocked with the stuff that Pixar's putting out lately. Not like bad shocked, like extremely excited shocked. It's like makes me want to keep going. I mean, I've always loved their movies. I've been watching them since like the first Toy Story.
Yeah, no, me too.
Back in '95. That's starting to age us a little bit.
Yeah. But I'm really glad that they are going to original stories now.
Yeah,
because I didn't watch a lot of the sequels. Like I watched Cars 2 and I watched Monsters University, but I didn't watch what's the Planes movies? Like that's like a spin-off.
I think that's literally called Planes.
Yeah, Planes, and they made a sequel there, like Emergency Planes. Now, I guess.
I think they didn't Pixar make the first Planes, but then I think another studio took over the second
sequels,
one. Yeah, so I don't think Pixar did more than one of those.
Yeah, the only sequel, I mean, the Toy Story sequels, like Toy Story 2 is gut wrenching a good movie, and 3 was good as well.
So I still haven't.
I've never seen 3 either.
I saw 2.
3 is all right.
I heard it was sad.
A lot of yes, it is.
It was really sad.
There's always sadness because I mean it's always like everyone has like a toy that they forgot about
That's
and
kind
stuff
of
like that.
And I think
all those movies are about is like, hey, remember you're gonna grow up one day and forget your toys.
Yep.
And it's like, oh man, you're right.
Oh no.
Well, because what's interesting is because like watching Inside Out, like you look at Toy Story and a lot of their stories are like coming of age stories.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at it, and I think Inside Out did like the best representation of coming of age.
Yeah.
Where they're like they did like a an actual like visual representation of like what happens as you age, because they showed I guess you've seen enough of the previews. It's not really a spoiler, but they kind of showed how it's like how you development cycles, you have very basic emotions where it's as you're growing up young, it's like just happiness, but then as you start to get older, you start to introduce more of like your sadness, like your I guess like
fear,
disgust, fear. Like you don't necessarily start having just one single emotion. It's like as a kid, that's all you know.
Yeah.
But as
you get older, it gets more complicated.
Yeah. And that's exactly what the movie.
Yeah.
It's a little girl growing up, and she's like right at that point where her emotions are starting to get complex.
Yeah, because she's reached the age of about 12, I think it was in the movie. So you're getting to that age where it's like, okay, now you're starting to interact with more people. Now you're really starting to get you're starting to kind of work your way in society a little bit. I mean, there's still, still a couple of years away, but it's that age.
You're starting to understand the world more, and it's it's much more complex than what you were when you were younger.
But what made me, what made me just really get into the movie was you look at it and you're like, this is a movie with a graphical representation of like what depression is.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa.
Yeah, like
you're like Up was pretty, that was dealing with death, so that had like a causation, where this was just kind of like there's a little bit of causation, but it was just like it really, you're like, that is if you've ever been depressed, you're like, that is totally probably
And see, I never saw Up except for like the first 5 minutes of it, and that movie is dark.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's what it's saying.
I was like, that is dark as that is bad.
And it was a really good movie, though. I mean,
you need to watch it.
It was an excellent movie, and I was shocked. Where you're, a spoiler if you haven't seen Up. I mean, it's been out for a couple of years, so spoiler. Yeah, it is about dealing with death. I mean, like in the first 5 minutes, the main character's wife dies.
Yeah.
So it's
didn't she also like lose a kid or something?
Well,
yes,
or it's implied that she lost a kid.
It's either
a miscarriage,
or she can't have children.
Yeah.
Something happened.
One of the two. It's
rough.
never. Yeah, it was never explained.
Of course, because it's a children's movie. But you're in a doctor's like a baby doctor's office, and they're crying.
So I mean, it's explained through visual, but it's not 100% said exactly what happened. But But yeah, it was one of those of it was so surprising that like you look at these movies and it's like what we were talking about earlier with like how cartoons are starting to be kind of they have more of the adult themed stuff, but you look at it and you're like, it's an animated movie, but it's like I have a hard time calling it a kids, especially like Inside Out. I have a hard time calling it a kids movie.
Yeah,
because you're like, there was too much like adult themes in it for me to really, I put it more on, like more of just like adult animated movies.
It's what Pixar's been doing forever,
which I think is amazing. I think great. I love, I just think the way they tell stories and stuff like that is just amazing. And
you dazzle the kids with all the
like the funny
wacky characters and all the bright colors and everything, but then you have some serious themes for the parents that are forced to sit through it.
And it's always been like, there's documentaries on Pixar about how they come about making movies. It's like they don't talk down to kids. Like they don't play that they're stupid.
Yeah.
They want to make a movie that's entertaining for them, but they're adults making this movie, so they want to make a movie that they want to see.
Sure.
So there's going to be some themes in there that are more grown up than most children's movies. Like Winnie the Pooh never, I mean, maybe if you look at like fan theories, yes, but Winnie the Pooh never, like Winnie Pooh wanted honey. That was his.
I get your idea.
90% of the
honey
or the American dream.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it. No, but like things like that. Like Winnie the Pooh never dealt with that kind of stuff because they were like, kids don't care about that stuff, but yeah, they do. That you don't need to talk down the children. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting that they're doing that. It's one of those, when I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, it's entertaining for me, but I'm like, are little kids going to understand what's going on? Because, younger kids aren't going to understand, like, what depression is. And, they're not going to understand, they may have an idea of how it feels to, like, to go through a move and stuff like that. So, I moved a lot. So I'm like, I know that feeling all too well. That's what I did for pretty much like the first half of my life, was to deal with that every couple of years, which sucks. It's like, it's not fun. And having to do that so many times, you just kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's partially, what it's formed a bit of part of my personality.
It's the Pixar movie thing. They make, oh, look, that character is like an elephant with wings and a top hat. He's funny. That's for kids. And like
just don't listen to what he.
Don't
listen to what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean,
she doesn't like that kid. Doesn't like broccoli. I don't like broccoli. That's funny. Like there's kid stuff.
And the kids are like, haha. But then adults are really looking at it and you're like, whoa.
They're sitting
like
at
crying.
the dinner table and she's like not
crying.
eating her vegetables, and you just see them in the background doing their taxes.
Yeah.
Like they're like the adults are crying during this movie, and like the kids are just like, ah, ha, ha.
Yeah.
The angry person has fire on his head.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it
almost makes parents resent their children. It's like, you're laughing at my sadness.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, whoa.
I think it's doing well. Like it's like a lot of Pixar movies. They're
I mean, like Rotten Tomatoes,
praised.
they had like a 98 or something, like stupidly high ratings. So I mean, it's one of those of like recent Pixar movies. Like they always say like like they tug on your heartstrings. Like, oh no, they yanked off my heartstrings. I was like, oh my god, this movie is. I mean, and it's great. I mean, it was good. It brought up some, memories that I prefer not to have remembered, but it's like, you're just like, but that's the power of Pixar movies recently, is they're like, nope, they're like, we are not just going to tug on your heartstrings. We're going to yank them out of your chest and choke you with them.
That's their name. That's their new motto.
But that's what.
Get ready to be choked by your heartstrings.
Which sounds like a horrible thing, but you're like, holy crap! When when they can create, it's one of those. That's where it gets to the point of where you're like, it's a difference between just like a movie. I hate to say it, comic book movies are, I think, just they're just throwing stuff at a wall and just say, here's some stupid fun entertainment. It's a difference between that and then, like, I guess, like more of like art. You know?
Speaking of throwing things at a wall, we have a new wall crawler entering into the comic book stream now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I tried to segue there.
I was like, wait,
it didn't work out too well.
Okay, I had to stop and think. I was like, okay, we did have a thing on our list here.
but yeah, that's
what?
Yes. Comic book movies. There. Yeah, we'll talk about Spider-Man in Marvel.
Yeah,
but
Spider-Man.
but yeah, you like watching like Iron Man and stuff. Like I felt like a lot more engaged in that kind of stuff than I did like in the Avengers. So I do feel that I. Like that, like the magic is gone. It's kind of just.
Well, it's because it's an individual.
It's because
story.
we expect something. We know what to expect.
Well, it's one of those of like when you look at it, when you do a mashup like that, it's hard to develop individual characters a little, because you're not necessarily developing the characters, you're developing their interactions with each other, which there's only so much you can do. Even
with like Ant-Man, then like watching Ant-Man whenever it first came out, it was way more engaging than Ant-Man this day. It's an origin story, but now you've seen origin stories, like 7 origin stories, however many origin like first movies there have been. Thor, Captain America.
Yeah.
Yes, something bad's gonna happen to the character. He's gonna get a suit and start winning.
Make some little quip every now and again. That's Marvel's formula, though. They'll have like generally mild character.
Well, that's Superman's. Not Superman. That's the superhero formula.
Just every now and again make some smart ass remark, and that's it. And I think that's why it's just less enchanting, is because. Like, oh, let's wait for him to say something funny and then get serious.
Well, because when you think of it with superhero movies, there's only so many things you can do.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those of, you can either have superhero overcomes evil, superpower just prevents evil but doesn't really overcome it, or they die to evil. That's really about all you can do. And unfortunately, there's only so many ways you can tell those stories.
Well, you either die a hero.
Yeah, I mean, or they go bad. There's
or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah, there's only certain things you can do. We're like, if you see like the Pixar movies where they're just doing full blown animation, like you can do whatever the hell you want. Like, all right, we want to go do, like a marijuana field trip to Pluto or something like that, let's do it. Great. This is going to be an awesome movie. We can do whatever the hell we want. It's like, hey, there's a flying happy space snake or something like that. Something silly like that. Like, we can do whatever the hell we want.
Why aren't we writing these down? We need to make all these movies.
Well, I mean, this is one of the reasons like why I love anime and stuff like that, because it's like it's one of those, if they can come up with like this batshit crazy stuff and they can do whatever the hell they want. And they put so much investment into like the voice actors and stuff like that. Like the music is awesome, and there's just so much crazy stuff that they can do. That when you just base it off of comic books and stuff like that, there's only certain things you can do. And so it's a little bit more limited.
Music is probably like the biggest thing for me in movies. You have to have have to have good music in your films.
Well, it depends. Yes, I agree. Like if the music is bad, then it takes you out of it.
It doesn't
for sure.
necessarily have to be good, but as long if you're in a if you're in an action scene or something like that, and you have like Benny Hill playing, it's gonna be extremely awkward.
You took my family.
Because you could totally have an action scene with opera, but you have to slow it down. If you don't slow it down, it looks really awkward to do. Like you have to. There's a way to make it fit, but
you should just dub over The Expendables with Benny Hill.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I bet, yeah.
Well, because thinking of that, an interesting experiment that I remember seeing. This was like years and years ago. What was it? It was Curb Your Shining, and what they did is they took scenes from like it was a series of like YouTube videos, and they took like horror movies, and they took like horrific scenes from horror movies, but put the theme song to Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
and no matter how horrific the video was, you couldn't help but smile. The music was that powerful. They showed like the scene from Aliens, like Alien, the first one, like with the chest
burster.
First alien, bursting out of the chest, and then that song played, and you're just like, I can't help but laugh at this. This is just
that was just funny anyway.
But still, I mean, it was such a powerful thing. You're like, no matter how bad or how like scary the moment was, when that music started playing, you could not help but smile and just not be afraid whatsoever.
That's how I felt when watching Jurassic World, because they just reused this original theme, and like every time you get that familiar tone, I was like, oh yeah, you couldn't help it.
No, yeah, that's. I mean, I'm sure they knew that was going to happen. Like they built that movie on nostalgia. A lot of it was nostalgia. You had the old buildings and whatnot.
Well, when you think of it, when you do reboots, you kind of have to, no matter what, you're going to have a little bit of a nostalgia factor. There's no way around it. If it's something that's already been made before and you're remaking it, people are always going to compare it to the first one. Period. That's how we are. We have to categorize everything.
Yep. But yeah. So real quick, Spider-Man. Finally, I guess Sony and Marvel finally worked out a deal. Spider-Man will be in Marvel movies now.
About time.
Yeah, I was gonna say it seemed kind of weird, but you're like, oh, that's right. Sony did buy the rights a while ago.
Yeah,
and he's such a big part of the Civil War story that he has to be in there.
I know he was part of the Avengers. I've always. So like ever since like the first Avengers, they're like, "Where's Spider-Man?" Like he's always been a part.
He's part of the new event. Like,
oh, was he?
Avengers.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I never.
But yeah, Spider-Man was just a very integral part in the Civil War comic book.
Yeah.
So not having him in there, they would have to jumble it up. Quite a bit.
Well, yeah. So,
which is a curse, and it's a good thing and a curse at the same time, because then you're like, okay, now they can, they'll probably make more movies, but then also at the end of the thing, now here's another movie to continue the oversaturation of these comic book movies.
Yeah,
because you're like, now you're gonna have a lot of Spider-Man movies, and like Star Wars is gonna get added into the mix, and there's just gonna be like,
and DC's throwing in stuff.
Yeah,
in
and
there.
So there's just gonna, now you look at, we're already at like 3 of these movies a year already, and now there's gonna be like 7 of them a year, and you're like, this is gonna just be nuts. It's like, it's just, like it's gonna all just blur. More is gonna blur.
I think the weirdest one's gonna be when Doctor Strange comes out.
Yeah, that's when they get.
I foresee that being the tipping point is when it's gonna start getting bad.
So if they want to change up the movies, my favorite like comic book oriented movie like of all time, at least style wise, was what was it? Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I love the I want to see more movies like that, where it's like, yes, it's real life, but they did it with filters, and they added so much. Like, instead of just having it like, oh, this is a comic book, but in real life, they're like, screw that, we're gonna have them shoot like fireballs and shit, and you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It was so. It was the closest thing to like.
Well, a lot of people thought Ant-Man was gonna be that because Edgar Wright, the director and co-writer, maybe I think of Scott Pilgrim, was gonna. He still co-wrote Ant-Man, but he was gonna direct it, and we were like, oh man, like bringing that like style. Like maybe not as comical, but bringing that style into like a Marvel movie, people were like, "This is going to be amazing." But
see, I guess the problem is when you look at it, comic books are more realistic in general. Yeah, I mean, you look at.
I think that'd just be too campy for Marvel at this point.
Yeah, like I think at this point now, now it'd be a little bit hard to transition over. It would be an awkward, like if they could do maybe like a side universe or something like that, where they do more of a.
No.
I don't know.
Here's phase 1 of Universe 2.
Yeah, I don't know.
But no, I could think Edgar Wright could do it because he also did like the Shaun of the Dead, the Hot Fuzz, and the World's End movies, so he can do serious. Or more serious. Those, of course, had their comedy in it.
Oh, yeah.
But his writing and visual style, I think, would have been amazing for a superhero movie.
Yeah, because it's one of those of like when we're talking about that style that we were talking about. What I would have loved to seen, like you guys brought up Dragon Ball movie, and they made it more. It was just a horrible movie. Like if they would have done it more of a style of like Scott Pilgrim, where they had like the wild, over the top, crazy colors shooting, Like instead of trying to make it like the real, like the airbender looking thing, like if they just made it like it's a crazy like blue lightning ball that just like
if they made it any bit faithful to the
and that was also an issue. Yeah, that was the biggest issue. It was just like a complete, it was like all they used was like the characters, and they're like, fuck all the backstory, fuck like 20 years of stuff we have to go off of. We're just gonna use the characters, and we're just gonna make some generic,
and it wouldn't have been so bad if they didn't slap the Dragon Ball name on it.
Yeah, I mean,
if they could have renamed the character, and it would have been fine.
It's like Dragon Squares.
We must collect the Dragon Squares.
Just make it up. And you're like, all right.
They go even worse, like lizard cubes.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, because for a while, I remember, there was rumors that they were going to do a second one, and it wasn't necessarily because it was a big hit in the United States. It was because of an absolute monstrous hit in China, of all places.
Oh, really?
The Chinese really loved Dragon Ball. And we're all like, no, please don't.
They probably just liked it because they're like, this is so bad.
I mean,
Americans are
they're
terrible.
just gloating in the fact America is bad.
It was, it was a bad movie.
But on the other hand, I do enjoy superhero movies more than like the young adult, like the YA romance sappy stuff.
Oh, well, yeah.
Fault in Our Stars. So I wouldn't mind an oversaturation in superhero movies if it means desaturation of Twilight and stuff like that.
I was going to say, if I have to have something saturating the market, I would rather see more comic book movies than like, because like, like what was it? Hunger Games, and like, that's okay, but I would rather see more comic book movies than like Hunger Games or Twilight and stuff like that.
Or like Fault in Our Stars, like the stuff that are meant to just like kill your heart, like make you cry like every second, like things like that. I was like, I don't want to cry in a movie theater. I don't want to be afraid. I just want to be entertained.
Where they just hand you a box of tissues at the door. Like
it's like, here's your 3D glasses and here's your box of tissues.
They show The Fault in Our Stars in 3D. This girl has cancer in 3D.
All right.
Oh no.
Like you can see her slowly dying.
Right in your face. Oh no. But, so that's one thing I don't mind that's happening with the movies these days.
And, I mean, I guess it makes it more obvious what good movies are actually there, like apart from the superhero movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the other stuff that gets in are gonna
like it has to be really good to cut through the hype of comic book movies.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't know. It's just the way it's going. We talked about it before. There's going to be a bubble burst, and it's not there at some point. They're not going to do it, and maybe they'll start slowing down with their releases.
I think maybe cut it down to maybe like one or two a year. I think would at least slow it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
DC's got a lot of catching up to do at this point.
That's the thing, because DC is just starting out now, so
it's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because they're gonna start making more, and then Marvel's gonna be like, we gotta make 700 to compete with their one that they've got.
I'm not quite at the point where y'all are or you're at now.
Yeah.
I still will watch them, and I don't mind them at all right now. But I can see it getting bad.
Like I'll probably end up watching them eventually. It's one of those. I may wait till it's like on DVD or whatever. We can get it like at the library.
Or VOD.
Like that.
It could be on VOD.
Yeah.
Just watch it at home.
The Ant-Man sequel.
Speaking of watching things at home, let's go back to our first. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's like, all right, we're gonna start the podcast over again.
For all the people that just are joining us.
Can we go ahead and rewind?
Welcome to Thinking Outside the Pod, episode 75. 3/4, 1 plus 74. But that's really, I think we're running out of time. So real quick, let's check our live streaming numbers. 192 people have watched us. 37 are here now.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
wow, that's better than normal.
No comments. But we do.
Feel free to comment. We'll usually try to once we get to the end of when we're doing the podcast, we'll usually try to, I mean, unless it's super relevant to what we're talking about, if we see it, we'll try to comment on it. But we're trying to wait till the end of the episode to really address the comments. Just
so it doesn't break up everything. But very cool that y'all are here. We do this every Sunday around this time, 3-ish Central Time. So that's when we do it. So definitely, if you haven't followed us, do that. Or if you liked it, follow us.
Yes.
At Top Pod on Twitter, you'll see the link come up.
Follow us on the internet. Don't follow us in real life. That'd be a little bit.
Follow Jason.
You can follow Jason. Well, but he.
No!
You're like, yeah, I'll be following you too.
Be in the wrong window and be like, oh no, dang it.
Well,
Jason's that way. I'll have a sign out.
Quick survey for you guys. Earth 2. Given the opportunity, would you go?
No, I like Earth.
I don't know. It depends. I don't know.
It's 1,400 light years away.
You'll be fine.
Do I get to live there by myself?
Do I get Earth 2 by myself?
Yeah, it's like, yes.
Do I still get to access the internet from I
a really long ass
I'm not gonna lie. The internet is not strong.
How's the
all of a sudden an alien comes there, like, what the hell is this long cable? And they follow it all the way back to your planet. It's just you sitting there on it's like a little desk and a computer with like a sleeping bag next to it. You're like,
what are you doing?
Like, get off my planet, you jerk.
It's like Pixels type aliens, and they scan the line and they see like the stuff that I'm watching. It's like, oh no, pornographic like they just like have like pixelated porn stars like attacking New York.
I don't think as many people would mind. You'd be like, that's all right.
This is the way I always thought I'd die.
They're like, I'm afraid and turned on at the same time. I'm so confused.
Scare roused.
Oh no. Oh yeah, fear erection. I'm sorry. All right.
I know. All right. We're going to stop before this gets...
You said the E word.
Yeah,
now we look at our viewers, and now we have -4.
No, we have 30,000.
It's like, whoa.
But yeah, so thinkingoutsidethepod.com. We do this every month. Like, we release podcasts every Monday, so go back and listen to our old ones if you want. Or
you can listen to us again tomorrow if you want, in audio form.
Yeah.
And eventually, at some point in time in the future, we'll put the YouTube video up or whatever. That's usually we just put it on a timeline and export it.
Yeah. So every Monday we release the audio version. We do live stream and then videos in the future. But thinkingoutsidethepod.com, you'll find all of our social media links. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're all over the place there. So definitely do that. But that's going to be our episode 75.
75.
My name is Jimmy.
Fish.
Jason.
Okay, Jason Fish.
Fish, so.
I was like, I don't know what order we're going in.
I thought we were going this way, and then he pointed at you. And
there is no logic to these things. We just call out names whenever we want to.
Exactly. But that's going to be our episode. We will talk to you next week.
All right, later, guys.
Bye.